I saw a group chat on my wife's phone titled "Without Alex." Alex is me. I quickly opened it, and my heart sank. My mother-in-law was asking my wife to be a surrogate, and spend the night with my brother-in-law, while I was at work. I scrolled further, and saw that yesterday they had already celebrated the pregnancy. I packed my bag and vanished. When they received the first letter from my lawyer, I had 156 missed calls and SMS from my mail. Your wife is in the ER. It all began in the spring of 2014. I was 26 years old, and my wife Sandra was 27. We had been together for 5 years, married for 2. We met in college. She was studying accounting, and I was studying mechanical engineering. Our first encounter was at a fraternity party hosted by a mutual friend, and we bonded over cheap sangria and some truly awful dance music. From that first conversation, we discovered an undeniable chemistry. Sandra was gorgeous in a sleek, elegant way, long dark hair always pulled back in a flawless ponytail. Intense eyes that looked like they were seeing right through you. And an air of confidence that made everyone in her orbit take notice. She had a manner of speaking that was firm yet refined. You always felt like you had to impress her. It drew me in like a moth to a flame. Meanwhile, I was tall, brash, and determined to succeed. People told me I looked older than I was, thanks to the intensity always etched on my face. Although we had our differences, we quickly became inseparable. Within a year, we decided to marry. I thought of Sandra as the perfect partner, intelligent, assured, and someone who'd challenge me to be better. She wanted a comfortable life, and I convinced her I could provide that, no matter what. But marriage isn't just about two people, it's about merging two families. Sandra's mother, Isabella, never hesitated to remind us of that. From the moment I met her, she wore disapproval like a badge of honor. She acted as if I were some stray cat her daughter had recklessly dragged in from the street. Although I tried my best to impress her at every turn, bringing flowers, offering to help around the house, Isabella had no interest in warming up to me. I recall the first dinner we ever had together. Isabella gave me this icy stare across the table, then turned to Sandra and said, "My dear, you deserve someone far more refined." In one single sentence, she dismissed me, and in a weird way, that was her real introduction. She believed I lacked the sophistication and poise that an accounting major with a prosperous future ought to marry. Yet, in spite of her disapproval, I married Sandra. It felt like a personal victory, and I relished that. My father-in-law, Marco, was always overshadowed by Isabella's domineering presence. Whenever I tried to talk to him, he'd mumble pleasantries, but it felt half-hearted. I suspect he never dared to cross his wife's formidable line of fire, so he simply nodded and stuck to small talk about the weather or the garden. Sandra also had an older sister, Serena, who was married to Arnold. He and I actually got along at first. We'd sometimes talk about sports or crack jokes about everyday life. He wasn't exactly my best friend, but he wasn't hostile like Isabella. Serena seemed gentler than Sandra, she came across as a bit fragile. And it was well known in the family that she had been struggling with infertility for several years. Initially, Sandra and I planned to forego children for a while. We wanted to travel the world, pay off our mortgage, and build thriving careers. "We have plenty of time for babies," Sandra used to say, flipping her hair with that signature arrogance. "There are more important things to focus on first." Whenever she said that, I'd nod, reaffirming that I supported her. But part of me also liked the arrangement, because I had my own ambitions. I wanted to climb the ranks at the engineering firm, make a name for myself, and then consider settling down with children. Truth be told, I liked the idea of waiting, it meant fewer constraints on my life. A year into our marriage, everything shifted. Isabella had a fall and ended up hospitalized for 2 days. The doctor's advice was simple: bed rest. The moment Sandra found out, she went into a panic. If there was one person who could manipulate Sandra's every thought, it was Isabella. After all, for years Isabella had hammered into her daughters' heads that family is everything, and that each woman's greatest pride is producing an heir. Sandra insisted on staying at her mother's bedside the entire time. I dropped by with flowers, but Isabella would practically ignore me. If she did speak to me, it was to say something like, "Don't you have something better to do than stand there?" Or "Why doesn't your firm keep you busier?" She never wasted a chance to take a jab at my career, my presence, anything about me, really. Once Isabella was released from the hospital, she seemed even more determined to lay on the guilt about not having grandchildren. Then came her and Marco's 30th wedding anniversary, which the entire extended family attended. It was one of those big affairs, everyone dressed in formal wear, a fancy dinner served in a small ballroom, and an atmosphere of forced cheer. I remember sensing from the start that something heavy was about to happen. Isabella, never one to miss a dramatic entrance, used the microphone that night to share her fragile health and her grave fear that she might never become a grandmother. During that same party, Serena broke down in tears, confessing to the family that she'd been to numerous fertility clinics with no luck. She simply couldn't conceive, and the emotional weight was crushing her. Arnold, standing quietly behind her, pressed his lips into a thin line but said nothing. Isabella, in her prime stage of theatrical gloom, lamented, "I just want grandchildren." Serena tried, "But we might never have a child in this family's bloodline. If Sandra also waits forever, I might be gone by then." She cast a disparaging glance in my direction, as if I was personally denying her a grandbaby. And just like that, the seeds of tension sprouted. On the drive home, Sandra was visibly upset, tears brimming in her eyes. "I can't stop picturing my mom lying in that hospital bed," she murmured, voice trembling. "What if she never holds a grandchild? What if Serena never?" She trailed off, her eyes fixed on the passing streetlights. I reached over and squeezed her hand. "We have time, let's not rush," I said softly. Inside though, I had my own swirl of doubts. Because no matter how calm I sounded, I'd grown to enjoy my independence. On some level, I resented that anyone, even Sandra, might be forcing me to commit to fatherhood before I was truly ready. In hindsight, I realized I had always harbored a deep anger. I was good at my engineering job, had built a decent life with Sandra. Now you can watch the second part by pressing share and more.